Hello and welcome to this video on how to grease a Schlenk flask. It may seem straightforward and something that you would just naturally be able to do, but of course greasing is very important on the Schlenk line. As we're working at low pressures, greasing the taps and the fitted glassware is really important to maintaining that low pressure and avoiding any leaks. And also grease as well is one of the main contaminants in any kind of Schlenk related work, so it's good to know how to properly clean glassware. So first things first, you need to make sure that the tap fits into the Schlenk arm. Not all of them are the same size. And then we're going to apply 2 decent lines of grease on the side. This is a bit more than what you'd normally do for other types of glassware because it needs a little bit more because we're working at a lower pressure. We need to be able to really seal in our joint to avoid any air leaking in. You can spread it around the tap before adding it into the joint, although this isn't totally necessary. It's just something that you can do to avoid any excess grease being pushed off. So we can fit this into our arm of our Schlenk flask, and we're going to rotate it around until it goes translucent or fairly clear. And it's important that we spread it evenly, as any gaps in the grease can leak in air and will increase our pressure. And then once it's in there and been rotated around, we're going to fit our plastic joints to secure our tap in place. The washer goes in and there's a groove on the underside of it that will fit our O-ring in, which goes on next. And then our tap head can be placed on and screwed fairly tightly, but we're not securing the tap in place. It should still be able to move. It's just there to ensure it doesn't pop out or be knocked out. So there's a nice fit there and you should still be able to move it. Likewise, when we're adding glass stoppers into our Schlenk flask, 2 big lines of grease on there, and we can pop that in, rotate it around once more, making sure the grease goes translucent and is spread evenly. With this, obviously, we're going to be taking this off and on throughout the course of the reaction. We may have scraped out material or got some caught in the neck during these processes, so we need to make sure that that is clear of any solid material in the neck there when we're adding a glass stopper, because again, any solid material caught in the grease is going to affect how tightly sealed it is. Any friction in there as well can damage and score the glassware, which we don't want. If we ever feel that these joints are seizing up throughout the day, we need to immediately re-grease, as any friction with the glassware can cause it to break and of course affect our reaction. So moving on to degreasing, we need to do this before we clean up our Schlenk flask at the end of the day. And as I said, grease is a major contaminant in this kind of work, and so we need to make sure that we're very thoroughly removing the grease from our tap. So a bit of blue roll will do the trick, and really you need to be squirting a little bit of pet ether on there as well to thoroughly remove the grease. And in any hard to reach places which the blue roll won't get, we need to employ our pipe cleaner, chucking it in there, maybe putting some pet ether on there as well, and that will dissolve up the grease. So again, with our stopper, wiping this with some blue roll, maybe some pet ether, and you should be able to touch it afterwards and not feel any grease. It's good to just make sure that we check before we move on to cleaning other parts. So thoroughly removing it from the neck. And then we can undertake our subsequent cleaning processes with soapy water and acetone before it goes back into the oven. The arm of the Schlenk tends to be the hardest to reach place, so it's getting some blue roll in there to remove the grease from the joint, and then also using a pipe cleaner to really get into that narrow arm part. So there's a few tricks to this. You want to kind of do it in sections and approach from different angles, so in through the end of the arm here, but also up into the joint bit. And a good technique as well to have is to put a kink or a bend into the pipe cleaner, and then you can kind of rotate it around and it's going to be able to reach all the edges of the arm that you can't reach by just poking it in there.